Today is the International Day of Education. This year marks the halfway point since the United Nations took on the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which has 17 goals. And to reach those goals, the international community has recognized that education for all is essential for its success. Manisa Danabalan joins us live with more. Manisa, as we mark this day, there is a global education threat lurking.
That's right, Kelly. With the UN founded Education Cannot Wait, a global fund for education in emergencies and crisis, they estimated that 75 million children needed education support. Now they say that number has tripled to 222 million.
The United Nations says the right to education is enshrined in Article 26 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which calls for free and compulsory elementary education. But across the globe, that right was ripped away from millions, especially women and girls, because of impacts from conflict, climate change, and other crises.
It has always been shocking to me that education has been given such a low priority in many government policies and in international cooperation instruments. The theme of this year's International Day of Education reminds us that to invest in people prioritize education.
It's estimated that the number of children out of school globally is more than the total population of France, Italy, or the UK. It stands at 78 million. And one of the major issues right now is in Afghanistan, the only country where secondary education for girls has been banned. Once the Taliban took over, they banned most women and girls from attending high school back in August 2021. And just last month, they stopped women from going to universities.
How devastating it is that they've been imprisoned, locked up at home for the past 491 days, not being able to study, not being able to work, not really very much not being able to leave their homes.
The UN and many international organizations have prioritized Afghan women and girls.
Now is also the time to end all discriminatory laws and practices that hinder access to education. I call on the de facto authorities in Afghanistan, in particular, to reverse the outrageous and self-defeating ban on access to secondary and higher education for girls.
Canada's Minister of International Development says the country is taking every opportunity to do what they can and get Afghanistan to open up on education.
Looked at unique ways of what we can support. For example, in the Gulf states where I have visited, they have actually opened up online courses for the women and girls in Afghanistan to take their exams. And we want to send a message that without actually educating girls, you're reducing your nation's ability.
A former UK government advisor and activist says more action is needed.
Muslim countries to stand up, where you see women very much active in public life, in sort of political spaces and leadership, and they need to speak up.
She adds that the UN should meet with the women in Afghanistan who are out protesting and risking their lives to see what should be done. But even in countries where there is access to education, other barriers exist. Here in Ontario, the president of CUPE says the high standards of public education in the province are at risk.
Funding has been cut to our schools. It's at risk because there aren't simply enough support staff in our schools to provide the kind of supports that are needed. We're seeing growing violence. We're seeing challenges in our schools.
The UN says there is hope. With ECW, they reached 7 million children in 5 years, and they plan to reach 20 million more over the next 4. But world leaders, businesses, and foundations need to deliver on their commitments. Kelly?